Hello and welcome to the Post Café. I'm Corey Tedrow, your host. If you haven't joined us before, the Post Café is a place where we get to sit down with members of the global post-production community and talk with them about what they do, how they do it, and have a chance to sit down and let them give us their insight and experience on the ever-evolving world of post-production. Today's episode is entitled Long Distance Tech Support, and we are joined by Susan Rayborn-Miller. She is the technology manager at the Production Hive in Knoxville, Tennessee. Welcome, Susan.
Hi, Corey. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us. You're the technology manager at the Production Hive. Can you tell us a little bit about what do you do? What does that entail exactly?
I do pretty much everything technology related at the Production Hive. I oversee the Avids, the laptops that are used by our production and operations staff. All of our servers, our networking infrastructure, and through COVID have played a major role in our remote workflows, both for post and also for our production alongside our gear team.
As far as remote production is concerned and the response to COVID, everyone has sort of a similar story, but what did you have to do when the pandemic hit and all of a sudden you had to go remote?
Everything. We had no remote infrastructure in place whatsoever. We are based in Knoxville for our main headquarters. We have a New York office and an LA office. Between those locations, we had Avids and shared storage, Nexus shared storage in New York and Knoxville. New York shut down the week before Knoxville did. So we bought every external hard drive we could potentially find, spooled all of our media from our New York Nexus off onto those external hard drives and sent literally hard drives and their edit systems home with our New York editors. So we had edit systems, monitors, everything going home with editors in cabs, on subways, through couriers, everywhere we could get it there. For our Knoxville office, we sent a lot of our editors home with their Avids as well. That shut down the week after New York. So we had phase one of the shutdown and then phase two of, we thought we were insulated here, but we clearly weren't. So we shut down, we sent everybody home with their own systems and with hard drives. We had a few editors and our ingest team that we got up rather quickly on RGS via our existing 1 gig connection, internet connection, which is all we had here.
So prior to the pandemic, did you have local support folks that could help you out in New York and LA?
So LA, we don't have a whole lot of presence there aside from just production at this point, from executives and creative. For New York, I had a tech assistant / kind of all around AE person who was familiar with our systems and our Nexus that was located up there. They did the primary troubleshooting, and then I worked with them hand in hand. Down here, it was myself as the tech manager, and I had one assistant at the time.
So when all of a sudden, all of those systems go into people's houses, their apartments, wherever they're living, what did tech support look like at that point? All these things are suddenly outside of your control.
We panicked, Corey. We panicked and we scrambled. With sending the systems home with the editors, one, there was some extra inventory that had to be done because we had to make sure that we knew where each specific system, monitor, speaker, keyboard, mouse, everything. There was also licensing and keeping track. We were on mostly dongles at that point. Mm-hmm. So it was keeping track of our dongles that were going out. From there, it was basically just at home setup, just helping people talk through, getting on the phone and talking people through how to connect their monitors and their keyboards. And it was fairly straightforward because we had gone from Nexus shared storage to the external hard drives that we had made off of our Nexus. Setting up and getting connected back to their media was not that difficult for them, fortunately. It was just the computer setup at home and making sure everything was properly connected.
You mentioned you didn't have a remote infrastructure. I'm assuming that you do now.
By the end of May, we had upgraded our 1 gig pipeline to a 10 gig fiber pipeline. We increased our server up to a full-on server stack. Installed Teradici. We brought our Nexus down from New York and put it here in the Knoxville office. And right now we have about 160 machines in-house here in Knoxville that all of our editors remote into.
Do you have any editors that are working in-house now?
We have a handful of AEs, and our ingest team are still in-house. We have a couple of hot bays that we have available to our editors so that they can come in. Their systems are still virtual. They can come in and access it natively through our network infrastructure here if we've got a show that's getting really too intensive for the Teradici workflow to handle.
Just to back up and think about, that's amazing, having to just put in an entire infrastructure literally overnight. What was the biggest challenge doing that?
The biggest challenge personally for me was learning it, because I come from an edit background and I became the tech manager because I was the nerd of the company and was familiar and could speak the language in a very casual way. So I was good at communicating with our executives, between kind of our IT partners and our executives. Obviously, once we started building out a remote workflow, I've got to be more hands-on. I can't just hand it to an IT company that has 50 other clients who are struggling with this same everybody going home. There was a huge learning curve for me, especially because for the first 2 months of the pandemic, I couldn't be in the office. I had my assistant was the only hands-on person who was allowed to be in our office because of the lockdown rules.
Do you feel like you've got a groove going now? Are you at what your new normal is, or do you think that you'll get to a point where more editors might come into the building?
I think we're probably at our new normal. It's the remote workflows have been a boon for the company, really, because previously we were restricted to editors who were in the Knoxville area or in the New York area. We did have some editors that were in, say, Chicago, that we would send hard drives to for some of our more straightforward series prior to COVID. Now we have editors everywhere from LA to the UK and down in Uruguay.
Wow.
So it's expanded our workflow. I don't see that changing.
Is your job harder now, though?
I did manage to add a third assistant to my team, and I'm looking for a fourth and fifth now, which will help tremendously. It's a very different volume of work and type of work now than it was prior to COVID, obviously. There's a lot more truly technical aspects to it. There's a lot of networking that we never had to consider before because of the way our network was set up. And we're dealing with editors who are all on their own individual systems at home over their own individual internet connections. And there's that struggle sometimes between, I can control what's going on in my office to our front door to the internet. I can help you figure out what's going on between your computer and your internet. I have no control on everything in between, which adds a whole new level of challenge.
So your job's gotten harder for sure, but it's good to hear that you're getting help. That's awesome. Have there been any unexpected benefits or things that you're sort of excited about, that you like about this new way of working?
I love everything kind of about this new way of working. It makes things very different. It's pushed me to grow, which I always love. It's pushed my team to grow. My assistants both come from an AE background, so it's given them an opportunity to grow their skill set kind of above and beyond. I've got two guys now who, if it's an issue in Avid and it's an issue with a remote workflow in Avid, they can pretty well help you out pretty efficiently. The amount of learning that we've gotten to do has been tremendous. And it's nice. It's been nice to be able to go through and streamline our workflow. Our ingest workflow has to be on point, and everything on our shared storage has to be in the right place because we have this entirely new pool of editors that haven't worked for us before, don't know our programming and our workflows. Security-wise, we've had to improve and get better control over our licenses and access to our systems. Obviously now, since we're remote, there's security concerns that come with that. Previously, everyone was in the building on this nice, tidy little network. Now everybody's remoting in from everywhere. Probably the best thing about this workflow is that we get to work with a whole lot more people than we used to, and a wider range, not of personalities, but a wider range of challenges that have certainly kept it from being boring over the last 13 months.
Have you found that you're expected to be available around the clock just because now everyone can work anytime that they want?
Being available for support is a challenge. There's 3 of us on our team. We take turns on and on call. The additional challenge is that we have editors working on Pacific time. We're in the Eastern time zone here, and we've had editors over in the UK as well. So there's it's difficult to draw that line of when support is available. What we've ended up doing is we have designated support hours on Eastern. And if there are projects that are going to need that extra support, the teams are able to prearrange with us. Hey, we've got this. Can you just keep an eye on things in case something breaks loose?
Have you implemented any new tools for communication and collaboration?
We have. Through COVID, we have introduced a centralized support hub. Previously, all of our tech support was just done by emailing our tech address here in the office. That became overwhelming quite early on because there were too many email threads to keep up with. So we've implemented a support desk ticketing system there. We've also added a few communication tools to our arsenal just to improve communication through the company. We had a workforce of people who were always in the office wherever their show was. So our APs and PAs and our editors were all in-house with their showrunners and their supervising producers. That's not the case anymore. So our communication has changed almost completely.
Have you had any instances where there was a client or an editor at home that you just couldn't figure it out?
Oh, yeah. We've accused several people of having, ghosts in their house. We've had to interact with editors' ISPs on their behalf, which we try not to do, but sometimes it's just a language barrier, truthfully. We're working blind on editors' Macs and PCs of every age fathomable.
I'm glad you're getting it done though, and it sounds like you've had a lot of opportunities to add some things that have, like you said, enabled you to grow in a lot of different ways as a personally and just, in terms of your tools.
Yeah, we have. It's been astonishing to watch us as a company because we've actually had growth through COVID. In the first 2 months, we sold a show that was a clip show that kept us going kind of while production even was stepped down. When we went remote, we had, I believe, 70 editors and maybe 100 systems max. We're up now to 180 Avid between in-house and out-of-house and online.
Wow.
Or between in-house, remote, and online. So it's astronomical, the amount of growth that we've done with this new workflow. And it's because we can use folks from anywhere.
Is there anything else you want to share? Any other insight or advice you have for other technology people out there?
The best advice I have for anybody on the tech side, working especially with Avid and working in remote workflows, is you're never going to know it all. And so don't go in with that expectation that you know it all, because there's always a different caveat with these changing workflows to what you know. So you've got to be able to roll with those punches, but you've got to keep a sense of humor, because if not, you'll go mad in this remote workflow. It's super fun if you look at it the right way. But it'll also burn you out pretty quick.
Well, it has been super fun talking with you, Susan. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us and share your experiences with us.
Absolutely. I've had fun. It's been a pleasure.
So that is it for this episode of the Post Cafe. Thank you so much for joining us. If this is your first time and you like what you see, please hit subscribe. I'd like to thank Susan Rayborn-Miller of the Production Hive again for joining us. That's it. Take care. Bye-bye.